Without a doubt, this was some of the best musical directing I have ever heard in a final episode sequence. Just look at what they were able to accomplish in the final 5 minutes of this episode. You used the opening, which a lot of anime do. They use their banger of an opening to show the heroic deed get done. In this case, it's Courier taking the kids away after Swindler's sacrifice and all the ordinary citizens of the world standing up against a corrupt organization. That's what you expect, but you can't deny that had everyone getting butterflies and chills up your spine. But then you kind of juxtapose it with this horrifying alien invasion bombardment where you have a plane looking in at our boy Courier after he tells the kids to run. You're getting chills. You're saying this is the complete opposite of what we were just feeling. To then you end it with the kids walking through a tunnel, knowing that there probably is nothing on the other side. And even if there is it really going to be worth all the sacrifices? But ultimately, this soft piano, nice chimes in the background, this melancholy feeling of hopeful, bittersweet, optimistic. It just concludes it in such a satisfying way that you look at all the characters that died. Some died because they were psychopaths, some died because they took just the idea of experimentation too far. Many of them died for others' sake. And, of course, in this episode, we lose the last two Akudama before Swindler gets actually acclaimed and gets her own title sequence before ultimately going out. And there's plenty of shows. I know people have been bringing up a lot of Akame got killed and stuff like that, which I think is unfair because while that show and manga definitely has entertainment value, it's not even close to being the quality of Akudama Drive. There's plenty of great shows, books, and many pieces of media that kill off a lot of characters. And this is one of the few cases in anime for recent memory that killed off every single character outside of obviously the brother and sister, and did so for a reason. This show, while people will criticize me for saying it, they hate whenever you throw the classic word around. I think it's a modern classic. I really truthfully do. Production value alone already cements it as something that's not going to be forgotten in 5 years' time. It's something that's going to stand above. You can just look at shows like Guilty Crown, which I really like, but even the people who dislike it still look back and talk about how crazy the production is. Akudama Drive is honestly the next version of that people are going to look at. But I think, honestly, most people who watch it, there won't be the debate of if you like Akudama Drive, there's this hot, heated discussion like something like Guilty Crown. Akudama Drive, it's good. It's really good across the board. The thing with it is the previews kind of usually indicate what's going to happen, and the preview to me indicated that Courier was going to die. There was a moment that just looked like he was going to die in the preview, and by the opening standards, everyone was going to die because they followed the opening order. And generally when they do that, I'm not a fan because it just feels like there's no predictability to it. But here, it never really felt like the deaths are what was shocking. It was actually the story and the plot mechanics and how things were happening. The Bunny and Shark program, the whole idea of the actual executioners, the Akudama. There's so much happening, so the deaths were just kind of there to serve a purpose to propel things forward rather than just being the only thing we have for you is killing characters like most of these shows. The fact that someone like Swindler went out, it was one of the weird cases where one of my favorite characters died, and I wasn't sad, I wasn't ready to cry, I was inspired by her sacrifice. The idea that there was this little notification on her phone last episode, a lot of people were discussing it, why was Hacker's icon on her phone? And it seemed like it was one last gift from Hacker to Swindler, a program to just shut down the city basically, which honestly was amazing. But the idea of her becoming Swindler, doing the only thing she could do, she swindled people this entire show and really has become the swindler. She swindled the entire organization to say, I am an ordinary person, I am an ordinary citizen, help me. She knew damn well they would kill her, but the general public would see that as, once again, brutality is happening to people and it could happen to any one of us. And the idea of that program taking over the actual Bunny Shark program, things like that, it's one of the weird cases where I know a lot of people will be crying or really sad about their deaths, but to me it was this heroic inspiration that watching this episode I realized it never was about Swindler, it was never about Courier making it out alive, it was about this mission that we started with episode 1, seeing it through to the end. And honestly, I was kind of with Brother. It wasn't going to work out. I fully expected a complete bad ending. I honestly did. And some people may say, why would I expect a bad ending? There's no way. But honestly, that moment with Courier just looking at all the executioners, he's already wounded. He has one arm. There's nothing that he can do. But to see the ordinary people rise up, that's the only logical way that they could overthrow essentially a government, is that if every person stands together, bands together to take down corruption. That was the only way for it to happen, and the only way for that to happen was to have Swindler die. And that's what's beautiful about this, is watching the sacrifices and watching things come full circle. A coin, a drop coin that changed this girl's life was then the payment to, yes, kill this man, but get them to safety. A courier will always get the job done. And that moments of him just like letting the kids run as he fights off these planes, and him like taking his railgun, basically trying to shoot away the last plane and basically having no energy to do so, as you see everything shut down, and then he uses his arm to kind of like propel the direction forward because his gun's malfunctioning. Just like watching everything take hold. Everyone knew, like, once Swindler died, Courier was too. Like, the only thing that I think could have been unpredictable in terms of the death formula was that if Courier died before Swindler and then Swindler was traveling with the kids, you would assume they're all going to escape together. But I honestly think having every character die in terms of the Akudamas was the correct route to go. Because while some were shocking, some were just like, wow, you didn't see coming, most of them, they served a purpose to like finish a character arc or propel the story forward. In this episode, the deaths were to propel the story forward. Stuff like Brawler's death was to propel Hoodlum's character forward. Stuff like Doctor's death was just satisfying to see a bitch get what she deserves. Then there's someone like Cutthroat, who was just an insane lunatic who ultimately met his maker. All these deaths, like Hacker and things like that, they just serve purposes. So it's one of the only cases, and I might even go as far to say the only case that I can remember that had a formula where the opening shows all the kills in order, that I can't come out saying that it was bad in the slightest. I honestly don't have an issue with this show. Production value alone, it's honestly probably my favorite production value in terms of visuals, and I might even go as far as say it's one of the best OSTs of the year. But just the story and the characters, they all served a purpose for this mission, and what started off as fun became honestly a masterpiece to me. Personally think this is the best anime of the season. In terms of like the thing that entertained me the most, I would still say Talentless Nana was the thing that just entertained me the most. It was one of the most fun things to review. But I think if I'm looking at things critically, Akudama Drive was the best. It just had everything going for it. And I loved the twist of what brother and sister was going to be used for. I know not everyone was with last week, but for me, I loved the idea of that. And then, you know, going across the mountains, not knowing is there actually anything there for them? Is it really just destroyed buildings and they'll be alone? But for characters who don't need to eat, sleep, or drink, as long as they're together, they should be able to enjoy a peaceful life escaped from the hell that they were born to kind of deal with. I think this was a fantastic ending that didn't miss its mark. I felt like by cutting the opening and ending, you really just allowed for it to really finish off on the best possible note. And I think Akudama Drive, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, still going to be looked back at as one of the best visually looking, but also some of the most striking with its narrative and character choices. I'd be interested to hear what did everyone think of Akudama Drive and its ending. Did you love it as much as myself, or did you think it just missed the mark for you? Whatever you feel, and of course let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, of course, like, share, your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy new around here. And if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to all, and Happy Holidays if you celebrate anything different. So until next time, take care, have a good one.